Welcome back to Simple Mind Space. In today's episode, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of Bitcoin halvings and attempting to predict the price movements of the next cycle. While we can't predict the future, we can certainly analyze historical trends and make educated guesses. One popular theory, championed by prominent YouTubers like Into the Cryptoverse, suggests that each Bitcoin cycle, the period between halving events, tends to be longer than the last, with diminishing returns in percentage growth. Imagine you're looking at a chart with 4 distinct lines, each representing a Bitcoin cycle. Notice how each line stretches longer than the previous one, while the peaks get progressively lower. This visual representation illustrates the theory we're discussing today. To understand this better, let's break down the historical data. We'll use a table format with crucial information about each halving cycle. Each column represents a specific data point, including date 1 year before halving. This tells us the date exactly 1 year before each halving event. Price 1 year before halving. This column shows Bitcoin's price on the date mentioned above. Halving date. This marks the date when the Bitcoin halving event occurred. Halving price. This column displays the price of Bitcoin on the halving date. Price growth 1 year before halving to halving. This crucial data point reveals the percentage increase in Bitcoin's price from 1 year before the halving to the actual halving date. Date of new all-time high. This column marks the date when Bitcoin reached a new all-time high price after the halving event. Days to new all-time high after halving. This shows us how many days it took for Bitcoin to achieve a new all-time high price after the halving. New all-time high price. This column lists the actual price of Bitcoin when it reached its new all-time high after the halving event. Price growth, halving price to new all-time high. Finally, this data point highlights the percentage growth in Bitcoin's price from the halving date to the new all-time high. Now, let's analyze each Bitcoin cycle. Cycle 1. The first halving occurred on November 28, 2012. 1 year prior, on November 28, 2011, Bitcoin's price was $2.50. On the halving date, the price was $12, reflecting a 380% increase. It took 369 days for Bitcoin to reach its new all-time high of $994, marking an astronomical 82.8 times growth from the halving price. Cycle 2. The second halving took place on July 9, 2016. A year prior, on July 9, 2015, Bitcoin was valued at $2. The halving date saw a price of $655, signifying a 142.6% surge. Bitcoin reached its new all-time high of $19,535 after 525 days, showcasing a 29.8 times increase from its halving price. Cycle 3. The most recent halving happened on May 11, 2020. On May 11, 2019, Bitcoin was trading at $7,254. The halving date price settled at $9,000, a comparatively modest rise of 24.7%. The new all-time high of $69,045 arrived 548 days later, representing a 7.7 times growth from the halving price. Looking at these figures, it's clear that the percentage growth between the 1 year pre-halving price and the actual halving price, as well as the growth from the halving price to the new all-time high, has decreased with each cycle. This dwindling growth aligns with the theory of lengthening cycles and diminishing returns. So, how can we use this information to speculate about the next halving event, projected for around April 29, 2024? Let's focus on the percentage growth between the price 1 year before the halving and the price on the halving date itself. We can see a declining trend: cycle 1, 380%, cycle 2, 142.6%, cycle 3, 24.7%. To estimate the growth for the upcoming halving, we can analyze the rate of decline. Comparing the first and second cycles, the growth rate dropped by a factor of 2.66. Between the second and third cycles, the decline factor was 5.77. While there are different approaches to forecasting, a straightforward method is to calculate the difference in decline factors between the cycles and add that difference to the last decline factor. In this case, the difference between 5.77 and 2.66 is 3.11. Adding this to the latest decline factor, 5.77, gives us 8.88. Now, dividing the first cycle's growth rate, 380%, by this new decline factor, 8.88, results in an estimated growth rate of 42.8% for the upcoming halving. This means that if Bitcoin follows the historical trend, its price on the halving date, estimated to be around April 29th, 2024, might be roughly 42.8% higher than its price on April 29th, 2023. Next, let's consider the time it takes for Bitcoin to reach a new all-time high after each halving. Cycle 1, 369 days. Cycle 2, 525 days. Cycle 3, 548 days. We can observe that the time difference between new all-time highs is shrinking. Between the first and second cycles, the gap was 156 days, while between the second and third cycles, it narrowed to just 23 days. Assuming this trend of decreasing time continues, we can simply add 23 days to the previous cycle's duration, 548 days, to estimate the time for the next all-time high. This calculation suggests a new all-time high could occur around 571 days after the next halving, potentially placing it around November 21st, 2025. Finally, let's tackle the potential price growth from the halving event to the new all-time high. Again, we'll analyze the historical data. Cycle 1, 82.8 times growth, approximately 8,185%. Cycle 2, 29.8 times growth, approximately 2,882%. Cycle 3, 7.7 times growth, approximately 670%. Similar to our previous calculations, we can identify the decline factors in growth between cycles. From the first to the second cycle, the growth dropped by a factor of approximately 2.78. Between the second and third cycles, the decline factor was roughly 3.74. By calculating the difference between these decline factors, 3.74, 2.78 equals 0, 96, and adding it to the latest decline factor, 3.74, we arrive at a new decline factor of 4.7. Dividing the first cycle's growth, 82.8 times, by this new decline factor, 4.7, gives us an estimated growth of approximately 17.6 times for the upcoming cycle. However, predicting the actual price target for the next Bitcoin all-time high is challenging. It depends heavily on Bitcoin's price on April 29th, 2024, which remains unknown. As an illustrative example, let's assume Bitcoin's price on April 29th, 2024 is 27,712. Based on our estimated growth of 17.6 times, the hypothetical all-time high for this cycle could be around $487,851, surpassing the previous high with a significant margin. It's crucial to emphasize that these calculations are purely speculative and based on historical trends. The cryptocurrency market is influenced by numerous factors beyond historical price data, including technological advancements, regulations, macroeconomic conditions, and market sentiment. Remember, this analysis is meant to be an engaging thought experiment and should not be considered financial advice. Always conduct thorough research and consult with a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bitcoin halvings and price predictions, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Simple Mind Space for more insightful content on personal finance, financial freedom, and navigating the world of investments. We appreciate your support, and until next time, happy investing.